Hey, everybody. I'm Regina Bryan, and welcome to the Women of Empowered Living. When my guest today started her business 13 years ago, she was earning six figures in her first 13 months. Today, that business is a $6 million company serving hundreds of clients a year. And she did it the old-fashioned way, using tried and true business principles. I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot from her today and have a little fun while doing so. Suzanne Evans, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for making time. So tell us, where in the world are you today?
I'm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm in my home office. I have an office here in Carrboro, North Carolina, with 20 full-time employees that we haven't used in 2 years, right? Like everybody. So we have used it for some of our events and when we meet, but I moved home when COVID took place. And quite frankly, I don't know that I'll go back to the office. The team is in and out, but I have a 5-year-old, so it's kind of been great to be home with him. And so in my pseudo office.
Yeah, there's some kind of cool things that came out of COVID. I mean, for some, working at home has become quite the blessing.
Yeah, when I started, I was a virtual office, and I just had a couple of part-time employees. And when our business grew really rapidly, we moved to a physical office space, and it was a blessing. And I think my business grew because I put people into a building and into a room, and we were really able to grow as a team. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant for I'm 12 years in business now, so probably 7 or 8 years. And then when this happened, we all kind of went our ways and are working from home. And now it's working again. So I think that businesses and companies go through ebbs and flows and through transitions.
It's interesting. You already gave us a business lesson, and we barely kicked off the show. So you said that you moved the team into an office, and that's what allowed you to grow.
Yeah, I think people don't work as well virtually as they think they do. Now, if we back up 8 years ago, we didn't have some of the tools and technologies that we have now to allow us to work better. There was no Slack, there was no Zoom. I think about moving into that office. Facebook Live didn't exist, So I think we are better prepared as an industry and from a technology side. But I really value being in person. I value being in person. I think there's something energetically. I think a lot of things get misunderstood virtually. The flip side is it's obviously allowed us to give some great, we're a small company. Yeah, we do $6 million a year, but in the grand scheme of things, we're still, tiny potatoes. And so it allows us to give some competitive benefits to our employees that we can't give them what Red Hat's going to give them or can give them or whatever, but we can give them more flexibility. We can give them a little more time off. We usually take a week off in December and a week off in July, and so we try to use some of that to leverage getting really great talent and retaining great talent. So I think that's been of a benefit. I would say my office is 70-30. 30% of the people really love coming to an office. 70% have been happy to be virtual, but we have a little bit of a hybrid going on right now. So hopefully we're meeting everybody's needs.
That's just business gold right there that you've already delivered. And so many companies are going through those same scenarios. My husband works for a major company, works for AT&T.
Yes.
And they're doing that same thing. It's a hybrid. It's who's going to go back maybe for a couple of days and who's going to be virtual. He's virtual. Yeah. So I love that you're offering your employees competitive advantage benefits, even as a small company.
Yeah.
You're already given us so many lessons already. So before we continue that, I know that before you got in this business 12, 13 years ago, you were in another line of work entirely that I found so fascinating. So talk to us about being in the New York City theater industry.
Yeah, I worked in the Broadway theater industry. Most people don't realize it really is a corporate industry, all its own, just like the film industry. And I opened 5 Broadway shows, and my title was assistant producer, which was a bit of a fancy word for secretary. But I worked in that position for about 10 years, and it was a phenomenal opportunity. I put Reuben McIntyre into Annie Get Your Gun, and Usher, and into Chicago,
I'm
and
so jealous of you right now.
and listen, it was a fascinating life. It was an interesting, fascinating, once in a lifetime experience life. And I really enjoyed it. I transitioned to doing what I'm doing now a little bit by accident, a little bit by intention and strategy, and that I knew I wanted to do something different. I knew that I didn't want to stay in that industry.
Yeah.
I won't bore you with the details, but there was only a few directions I could go, and I didn't know that those are the directions I wanted to go.
So
And I
kind
really
of a
wanted
limited career paths for you.
Yes, absolutely, especially financially. And so I wanted to do something on my own, and I wanted to have some of my own freedom, everything we all talk about. So I kind of sought out to go find it, and stumbled and tripped and clumsied my way to where I am now. But it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much. I got to experience so much, and I've had this crazy, wild, fascinating, very rich life. Been very blessed to have it, and that was an incredible decade of a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, and a lot of great learning.
I'm just glad you touched on that because you don't meet people every day from the New York City Theater District. I mean, of course, this show is all over the world via Facebook. Thank you, Facebook. And I live in Atlanta, and I've been in New York City a couple times, and all my money, if I lived there, would just go to the theater. Every dime I ever
Sure.
made, I would be at a show every day. So I just personally, that's just a cool thing to hear about.
Yeah.
And when you say you transition or got in this business by accident and then strategically, talk to us about how all this came about.
Well, I really wanted to do something different. And so you do that very boring, very life coaching 101, very typical thing where you start searching what you want to do with the rest of your life, and who am I, and who am I meant to be. And long story short, I stumbled on a few different things, had a few different ideas, but somebody was like, maybe you should hire a coach, right? Like, there's people who can help you kind of brainstorm this and get it out of you. And so I hired a coach, and like halfway through the first session, I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I was like, this is what I want to do. Bossing people around for a living. This is my calling. Like, I'm going to do this. But no, really, I hired a coach. And then, it's one of those things, the universe aligns. All of a sudden, one of the course members of Annie Get Your Gun that we had out on national tour, I was chatting with him, and he's like, when I'm not on tour, I'm in between gigs. He goes, I'm actually a life coach. So I keep about 5 or 6 clients all the time. And I was like, this is fascinating. Then I read an article in New York Magazine about life coach, so it's just this whole thing. And so I had that coach. Then I really decided that I wanted to coach. And so I was still working full-time, 60 hours a week. And so I really started this as a side hustle. And in starting it as a side hustle, we grew it to 6 figures in the first year, still while working a 60-hour week day job. And I was kind of clueless in a way, which is perfect.
How do you do that? Because a lot of the members of this empowered living community are coaches, are speakers. Yeah. And for a lot of us, it's a full-time gig. We're all in. And you did this while working in the theater business, 60 hours a week or so. What were those initial steps you took?
Yeah. Well, I did the friends and family thing first. I completely was committed to like telling everybody I knew about this, telling them, who do you have to refer to me? Who do you think needs this? Who can you put me in contact with? And I was really relentless.
Good old-fashioned hustle.
Yep. It was good old-fashioned hustle. And after that, I recognized I'd kind of run out of friends and family to torture. And you kind of have to start getting new leads. And it was really speaking. And I would speak anywhere. I really would. I got very clear about a couple of angles that I could take, and I contacted every place I could in the tri-state area. I would get on the train in the morning on the way to work, and I would research and make lists. On my lunch time, I would call people. On the way home on the train, I would try to do follow-up. Then I get home at night and would do emails and follow-up. Then I worked all weekend, every weekend. I was relentless, and I really followed that motto of live a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And
Ooh, okay.
I lived into that. I just said, I don't need to, I can watch less TV, I can travel less, I can see friends less. I let a lot of things go for a short term so that I could have a payoff for the long term.
Wow. So really what I hear you saying to any of us in this coaching speaking industry is you got to go all in by just doing the basics. You got to pick up the phone. Nothing's wrong with the click funnels and all this, social media stuff, but you're really telling us that you did it at a time when all this wasn't super popular all the time like it is now, click funnels and so forth. You picked up the phone and you called people.
Yeah, I still don't have a funnel running. I mean, I'm a $6 million company, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. And I have run them, and there's times that I do. But I do what I'm good at. I'm really good at speaking. I'm really good at doing what I'm doing here right now, having conversation, connecting with people, being able to take my ideas and my concepts and my experience and my content and use it as teachable material. And so I do that. So I book myself to be on Empowered Living. I book myself to speak at conferences and events and as breakout speakers. And so we put most of our effort into booking me to speak or be interviewed or something of that nature, because we always get higher quality leads and a better connection than we do from a lot of the digital. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do digital.
Right.
I do a lot of Facebook Live. Again, I use the speaking platform in a digital way. So
Yeah,
as
because I've
opposed
seen some of your Facebook Lives leading up to today, and I was just super impressed how, and this is one thing I really noticed about you that caught my attention. You are you, meaning you're just turning on the camera and you're going for it. And it takes of some of us, and I'm speaking for myself, a little bit of time to get over ourselves and get out of our own way. What makes you so comfortable? I'm loving it. What makes you so comfortable with just, hey, it's not about me being perfectly scripted and ready. I just got to get in front of people.
Well, I think it's three things. I think one is I really have a sense of a moral obligation to help people. The majority of my clients are women. We work with a lot of men as well, but the majority tend to be women. And there's a lot of women who have great ideas. They have wonderful gifts and talents and big plans, and they don't really have the strategies to get them there and the business acumen to get them there. So I feel as though I have a moral obligation to get as much information to as many people as I can. And so that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is that I find that the biggest hurdle for women is they would rather be liked than be rich. I'd rather be rich than be liked. And so I know that when you are
on that, I'm all for the rich part now.
well, and money is what changes things. Money is not for getting things, money is for changing things. And there's no possible way that you can be financially successful and not be criticized, not have people who disagree with you, not have negative feedback, not have haters, whatever you want to call it. And so
comes with the package. And you're right. Most women and people, men sometimes too, they're not ready to take that on as part of that package. They're just not ready.
1,000%. And so the second piece is like, listen, I can be perfect and people will dislike me. So I might as well let go of the trying to be perfect and just be me and do that. And I think the third reason, the confidence comes from my certainty, and my confidence comes from, I know my shit. I mean, I read all the time, I'll read 5 books a week. I'll read 10 and 12 periodicals before most people get out of bed. I will dive into material and information, and I remain relevant. And so when you are relevant and you really know your stuff and you are constantly reading and engaged and on the top of stuff, there's nothing to be but certain, because I know you could bring up any topic in the world right now, nothing to do with business and empowered living, and I can have a conversation with you around it because I'm studying.
Culturally, politically, whatever we're going through.
Yeah.
Wow. And at what point, Suzanne, did it become, did it go from you, I'm hustling, I've got my clients, to Driven Inc., to now I'm a company?
Yeah, well, it's an evolution. I started off with no one for the first probably year and a half of being in business. And then I think I got a virtual assistant for 5 hours a month. And then you take it to 5 hours a week, and then you realize you're kind of consuming a lot of their time. So you hire a second one. So for a year or so, I had 2 kind of semi full-time virtual assistants. Then we hired our first employee. Then you realize you need 3. So it's complete evolution. But so there's not a day that it became Driven Inc. It was hourly evolving into Driven Inc. And you make every decision as the opportunity arises. It's new level, new devil. So it's like, oh my gosh, we're finally making money, and like we've got money in the bank. And I'm like, and I need to spend all of that because we really need to hire. And then you hire 2 people and you're like, okay, great, this isn't working. We really need to evolve, and I need to take all this money and I need to put it into a building. And it's a constant evolution of spending more, making more, having bigger problems, and having bigger opportunities.
More money, more problems.
1000%.
Back before we move forward, I want to go back to something you said that I can't stop thinking about, that moral obligation. Imagine if we as women, we as people, saw our profession. Like, a lot of us feel called to speak or called to coach. Imagine if we took on what you just said as a moral obligation. How did you get there, and what would you say to those of us who are getting in our own way? That must allow you to get out of your way entirely and never think about you, how you look, how you come across. You're there for the women and for the people you serve.
Yeah. I've always said I'm not in it to make friends. I'm in it to make a difference. And I think that if you're not there, you have to really consider, should you go into business? Because business should be a selfish act that ends up serving. Let me just say that again. I didn't go into business to help people. I went into business to help myself. And in the process of helping myself, a lot of other people get helped. But, this BS of people being like, I want to give back and I want to help. No, I have a moral obligation to fulfill my potential here. And that has nothing to do with you. But when I'm fulfilling my potential, your potential gets filled too. So I actually think people need to put more focus on themselves, put more focus on what they want, and put more focus on fulfilling on their personal obligations. And in turn, everybody gets served. And that's the beauty of it.
That is so cool, because so many people want to give stuff away, and I'll just give stuff away. But if I go broke, who can I help?
Exactly. Not even yourself.
Not even myself. And I just love what you said. We have to ask ourselves in the beginning why we're in this business. We have to sort of have a come to Jesus with yourself about how are you going to help yourself by living your potential and serving others. That's pretty brilliant. That's well said, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wow. So how many people are working at Driven Inc. now?
We, depending on the season, depending on what we have going on, have about 20 to 24 full-time people.
How many coaches? Do you have a whole coaching team?
We do. Out of those 24, we have about 4 full-time coaches. And then we have, and I'm just sharing with you full-time employees. We have about 9 to 11 part-time coaches that work with us, depending on the event that we're running or what we're doing.
Gosh, and so what are your events like? If I wanted to do more with Driven Inc., how would I become involved as a participant? Go to an event, or maybe connect with you or one of the other coaches?
Sure. Well, you can always find us at Driven Inc., and it's Driven INC, because we are not a tattoo. company. We're not I&K. I always like to remind people of that. But it's Driven Inc. and you can find us online. But we are Driven Entrepreneurs is our free Facebook group. So you can join there, Driven Entrepreneurs on Facebook. It's an
We're going to
awesome
put that
community.
in the comments. So everybody wanting to find the website and the Facebook groups, we will have that available.
Great. And there's about 6,000 plus members there. And we're constantly doing Facebook Lives and giving you freebies and a lot of great connections. And then we do a couple of events a year. One of them is called Take the Stage, which we really focus on speaking. Our other one is called Driven the Event, which is more of a general business building, marketing, and sales event. And so coming to an event, it's a virtual event, it's a really cool experience because my background is theater. So one of the things that we're really known for is putting on shows, even virtually, kind of like you've never seen. When COVID first hit, our in-person event got postponed. We ended up doing an event in June that was so COVID was like March 12th, 13th. Our event was supposed to be in April. It got pushed to June. When we did it in June, we had 7 Broadway stars open the show with this killer opening, a really amazing opening. And so we put on a great show, but you learn a lot. You learn step by step how to do exactly what I did, because if I can do it working a 60-hour week day job, making $45,000 a year, you can certainly do it too. And we show you exactly how to do that.
That's pretty awesome. So when's your next event? Do you have anything coming up soon?
My next event is November 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Okay.
And that is called Take the Stage. You can, I can give a link if you're okay with that. Okay. I think this is a link that gives you a discounted code. It's drivenspecialoffer.com, drivenspecialoffer.com. I think that gives you like $100 off. So it's a $97 ticket, but yeah, it's November 17th, 18th, and 19th. And that is our speaker event. And that is where we really walk you through step by step, from story to the stage to sales, everything from writing your own book to what is your point of view to how do you get that message out of you, and then how do you monetize all of it.
That's so cool. So Suzanne, you've just done something in this industry that isn't done often. You have taken what is, an hourly person. I can only work with one person at a time, or maybe a small group, and you've scaled it big time. And I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm for this business. And you do it because you're thinking about living into your potential and your moral obligation, and then how everybody benefits from there. That's going to stay with me for a while. I don't know if I've heard it quite put that way before, and I love that. Good. So this is the greatest question I get to ask all of our guests that come today. And please feel free to expand on this any way you like, but what does an empowered life look like to you? What does that mean in Suzanne Evans' world, an empowered life?
Yeah, I mean, I think an empowered life is 2 things. I think one side of it is it's your perfect average day. And that's something we actually teach is, we call it a PAD, your perfect average day. I think people hear empowered living and they go, oh, that's the vacations, and that's the starting a not-for-profit, and that's it. And I'm like, no, what happens Thursday mornings, like Thursday, December 16th? Because those moments are simply that. They are moments, and we all love having them. We love having the anniversary party and the wedding and the vacation to Italy and all of that. But that is 10 to 20% of our lives. How are you living the 80 to 90% of your life? And how do you create your perfect average day? And that's really what I've done for myself. And it's what we train and coach and teach other people to do. So that's truly empowered living, is when a Wednesday is what you want just as much as the big trip or the big moment. And I think the second piece of empowered living is when you put your head on the pillow at night. I say all the time, I got a lot of friends, I got a lot of fans, I got a lot of haters, and I put my head on the pillow at night and feel really good about all of it, because I have been in aligned with my values. I have lived from my integrity. I have lived from my truth. I've had to be honest in a lot of situations where I could have tap danced or been flowery. And at the end of the day, I know my intentions and I know my worth and I know my value. And I can go to bed at night and go, I feel good about how I showed up today. I feel good about what I was able to give. And I may have messed a lot of things up, and let's try to start those over tomorrow. But I think those two things, your perfect average day and how you put your head on the pillow at night, that's truly empowered living.
Oh my gosh, Suzanne, that was wonderful. And I just feel so incredibly blessed to have spent this time with you this afternoon. We're going to give everybody all the details to how to connect with Suzanne and Driven Inc. on Facebook and the event information. Suzanne, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of what probably is a very hectic and busy day to do the show with us. So thank you
I
so
got to
much.
go get my hair done now, because that's also empowered living. It has not been cut in a long time, and I have an event coming up. So that is the third part of empowered living. Get your hair done.
We're going to let you go get your hair done. Thanks so much for joining us, Suzanne. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.